قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حني قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. It is a Wednesday morning and great to be with you on Let's Talk right here on ITV Networks. Amazing people in the studio this morning, two lovely ladies to kickstart the show. We're going to be talking PH and we're going to also talk about who they are and what exactly is it that they do in real life. Then we'll be talking state capture with Ben Teron, and we wrap up by talking about smart study methods. And of course, our final interview will be with Shafia Ori. But right now, let's introduce two lovely young ladies. The first one doesn't actually need any introduction. She is one of our colleagues here on ITV, and she presents the kids program on a Saturday morning. I think the first one started last Saturday at 8 o'clock, so be sure to catch it this Saturday morning and going forward, of course. She is the lovely Sumaya Umar, and with her is Yasmin Kota Tofi. They're here to talk about Covered Magazine and PH Day. The moment you talk PH, to me, the little lovely Humaira Budania comes to mind. She's one of the few sufferers in our country, but alhamdulillah, thanks to Zahira Bam Ismail and a whole host of other people, we have put this condition in the spotlight, and we hope and pray that you, our valued listeners, do continue supporting this family and all other families who have loved ones suffering from the condition. But let's get to the interviews, and we kickstart, like I said, with two lovely young ladies, and they're going to tell us about their role on PH Day. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah for having me.
Lovely to have you here. You are obviously Sumaya Umar, and of course, you're not new to the studios. Welcome once again on my show this time, and inshallah, we will catch you every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock on the kids' show. I haven't watched you yet, but I'll be sure to do so this coming week. And you are with Covered Magazine. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Covered Magazine. I'm Yasmin Kota Tofi, basically a mom, a wife.
Yes, carry on.
Mom, wife, career woman in the making, getting there, just starting off. Alhamdulillah, shukr. So yeah.
And your role at Covered Magazine, how long have you been involved with them? And why did Covered Magazine talk to you?
I'm actually the editor-in-chief of Covered Magazine, founder of Covered Magazine.
Wow.
Started in 2014, alhamdulillah, shukr. And gee.
Well, I had the pleasure of hosting Zaitun Akalwaya and one of your other colleagues in studio a little while ago.
That's great.
And it was so, it was lovely to hear how passionate women are about bringing news to other sisters. And it's not only news, but fashion, trends, etc., etc. How is Covered Magazine doing as we speak?
Alhamdulillah, shukr. We've actually reached over 10,000 views on the magazine. We've got over 1,000 subscribers, alhamdulillah. So yes, we're growing.
Growing. Wonderful, wonderful. Any plans of taking the magazine to print?
We are in talks of taking the magazine into print. We just finding our way as we go along, and funding for print is quite expensive, so we're looking at ways to get there, inshallah.
For the women who were not who didn't catch that interview with Zaitun Akalwaya, just give us a little background on Covered Magazine, how long you are in business, so to speak, your mission, your vision, and how women in our community can come on board and make a difference with their stories, obviously.
With their stories. Covered Magazine was actually created to give women the platform to share their stories, to motivate other women, to bring sisters together. That's why we started Covered Magazine. Also with a hint of fashion. We have a lot of fashion, beauty, to show that you can look beautiful from within and let it show from without. That was the aim.
Of course, when we talk fashion, we talk modest.
Modest fashion, yes, that's correct. All our sisters in hijab, that's who we're aiming at. That's we're targeting them. yeah, I don't know what else to say. Covered was founded on the 14th of February 2016. Marv, I'm so nervous, I don't know what.
There's no, don't be nervous at all. I think you're doing marvelously and you're sharing a very interesting story with me. And I think it's very inspiring for other women. You know, we all have dreams, we all have hopes, we all have aspirations, but you have that little negative voice within you that tells you you can't,
yes,
or you're going to be knocked down. But it's really great to see something like that, a dream that's come into realization. Who are the people that made you believe in yourself and make you realize that this dream can and has become a reality?
Zaytoon and Sadia, two very close friends of mine. When Covered started as a hobby. It was one of my hobbies that I've done, and then I've just punted it to all my friends, showed it off, and then Zaytoon and Sadia actually came on board and said, let's do this. And from there, we've taken it from there. And alhamdulillah, shukr, it's grown. From the 2 years that we've been online, it's grown phenomenally.
What about your partners, your husbands? What do they say about the growth of the magazine?
Hubby is quite intrigued, I won't lie. He played a part, but in the background, he usually lets me do what I feel I need to do. So alhamdulillah, the support is there.
Sumaya, you have an interesting story as well. Apart from having just joined the ITV family, you are presenting a kids show on a Saturday morning. You are also involved, or you work at Josie Kids. Tell us, what is it that you do there, and what is it that inspired you to join an organization like Josie Kids?
Josie Kids is such a fun online directory because it actually gives the Joburgers or the Gautengers information about where they can take their kids, what fun things are happening, events that are happening. Also, schools, the best tutorial places, the best places to join their kids for extramurals. So lots of information there for children, and I love children, and that's why even the iKids show started. I love children. I love giving them new things to do, not just keeping them on their cell phones. So the Josie Kids just gives parents a one-place store just to go in there, look what they can do for their children. If it has anything to do with children, it's on Josie Kids. So the reason I'm there is because I love kids, and yeah.
So what exactly is your role there? Because I'm thinking now, when you talk about things to do and keep kids busy during holidays, weekends, etc., there are certain activities or certain places that are very static. They're not going to change, like maybe the zoo or a mall, or a park, for example. What is it that you guys work on and work at to bring the fun and the excitement element in all of the time?
So my job is the marketing side of it. But with that comes that we look for instance, like you mentioned, the zoo. So all the events happening at the zoo, whether it's a night zoo walk, whether it is a fun run, things like that, we give exposure to those in advance so people know what's happening. We also look at different venues and what they have to offer. Also any special deals that they're offering, if the kids can go there to play on a Saturday morning. So different things that different places offer, when they offer it, dates and times, fun activities. So we try and search for that information and give that to the public.
So you have to have your finger on the button all of the time.
Yes, definitely.
But in terms of people visiting your site, do you have any idea how many people are dependent and interested in getting their information from Josie Kids?
We have over hundreds of thousands of visitors on our site daily. People are dependent because they're looking for schools, looking for extramurals for their children. Also, we have a ZA Parents, which is a blog. It's written for parents, information, articles by mothers, giving more information about their children. People searching for healthcare, for instance, for their little ones.
Gosh, even that?
Even that,
wow, that's amazing.
So we go into in-depth giving parents what they need all in one place.
Mm-hmm. You come from a marketing background, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to get back to you in a minute or two to talk about your role and PH, PH awareness.
Yes.
And let's start obviously with you in terms of pH awareness. What is Covered Magazine's role? And of course we spoke about the family, the Budania family, and little Humaira Budania, whom I believe is going to be on Zahira's show tomorrow. Is it pH Awareness Day?
No, it's actually, we're doing this in aid of pH to create awareness. We feel that there's not much awareness when it comes to pH. Not many people know about the rare disease. So we've decided with Covered Magazine to create the awareness. That's why we're hosting the function.
Now, Shakira Budania and Humaira's the daughter, Shakira is the mother. They featured on one of your covers. Did you do a story on them as well?
Yes, we did a feature on them, and we also featured them when they were with us with Candace Abrams on top billing as well. And to share their story. That's the whole point of Covered, to create a platform to share stories. And with Shakira being such a phenomenal woman with her background, with her stories that she has to tell, we feel that she has to share it. And that's the aim of promoting
Now, I know
pH
all
awareness.
magazines, all bloggers, all online platforms do have a feedback mechanism. What sort of feedback did you receive on that feature?
Overwhelming feedback on that feature. That was one of the features that actually drew a lot of people to view Covered. And we thank Shakira for that as well, because we became real once we featured Shakira and Humaira on the cover.
It was just not an abstract story. This was about real people, a real family, a real mom and her daughter, and this journey that they're undertaking, a very heartbreaking journey. And we all, of course, the whole of South Africa and whoever's watching us all around the world, we make lots and lots of dua for Shakira, Humaira and the family. Let's take an ad break. When we get back, we're going to now talk about how you guys have collaborated to cover this event, and it is pH awareness, obviously. I'm talking, obviously, to the two ladies who are involved in pH awareness. It is the lovely Sumaya Umar and Yasmin Tofi. Yasmin is representing Covered Magazine, and I'm not quite sure about Sumaya being on the show today. Is she representing iKids, or is she here for Josie Kids, or is it her involvement in or Covered Magazine? We'll find out right after the ad break. We're talking to Yasmin and to Sumaya. They're here to represent their different interests, and obviously it's Covered Magazine, it's Josie Kids, and it's pH awareness. So Yasmin, back to you and the collaboration that came about with you and with Sumaya. How did this all come about, and what's in it for Covered Magazine?
Basically, Covered's come on board to create awareness for pH Kids SA. We've also, with the collaboration, it allows us to then keep the magazine free for the next year, and 10% of the profits, total proceeds, will go to pH SA, and creating awareness, that's the main focus here.
So there's a huge event that has been planned around this pH Awareness Day. Sounds fun. It sounds like something that all the ladies should be attending. I presume it's a ladies only event.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So on the 21st of October at the rooftop in Rosebank, Covered Magazine with pH Kids SA will be hosting a high tea where we are selling tickets and where we will be talking about Covered Magazine, but most importantly the launch of their new ambassador. So it's a beautiful event, you know, and it's a surprise. So
you can't tell me
we can't
who the
tell
person
you.
is.
Yes, no,
You'll
definitely.
whisper in my ear off air.
After. And so the judging will take place, as well as the announcement of the ambassador.
The pH ambassador.
No, for Covered Magazine. Yes.
Okay.
But
why do you need an ambassador?
Basically, we're looking for an ambassador to represent Covered, to represent women, us women. We opened it up to the public. We're looking for someone that can and be basically a spokesperson for COVID, as you can see, because I'm very not into the speaking out publicly. So we decided to get a spokesperson for us. So that's the brand ambassador that we're looking for.
So that's what's going to happen on the 21st.
That's we're going to announce.
And of course, you'll be running a feature on pH in that particular edition of Covered Magazine. Let's look at your role, Sumaya. Where and how do you feature here? Because I know you're involved with Josie Kids and our kids. But what about pH and your collaboration with Covered Magazine?
I am a member of the PH Kids SA. So myself, Shakira, Zahira, Mariam, there's a few others, Fatima, there's a few of us girls that came together, best friends, just chatting about, Shakira and Humaira. And we decided that we needed to give a lot of exposure to this rare disease. And we formed PH Kids South Africa. The foundation is, we are collecting funds in order to give it to an organization to do research. So right now, we are looking at research specifically for kids suffering from PH because it's so rare, and there isn't much being done about it.
In South Africa, I think Humaira is one of only three, or is she the only child suffering from the condition?
There are a few, but it's very rare. So we're talking about maybe 10 at most in South Africa.
Are
that
all
we
those
know
people
of,
on board with you guys? Do they form part of the foundation, or do they keep regular contact with the foundation?
Yes, there is other PH associations which Shakira actually deals closely with, but we have managed to create PH Kids SA as a much bigger brand, and we've created much more exposure, even helping them per se. So yes, in collaboration with them, we do try to work as much as possible. I mean, we're looking at a few children that have it, but most importantly, we don't know how many out there have it. And this type of awareness is what's going to bring that out, and help maybe parents that diagnose it earlier or start looking for those signs so that they can provide their child with a longer life, much healthier life if diagnosed earlier. So PH Kids SA, why we raise our funds and why we're doing the exposure is mostly to create the awareness, to get people to know about it, and get South Africa looking for research and doing some research, finding out cures, inshallah one day for a cure. But at this time, just looking for the best way to make their lives more comfortable and obviously give them longer lives, these children.
All right, we're talking pH. You and I and Yasmin know what we're talking about, but I think our viewers back home may not necessarily understand what we're talking about. What does pH stand for?
So it's pulmonary hypertension. Specifically now we are talking about the children having pulmonary hypertension. They could be born with it. It is associated with breathing. So what happens is the arteries in their lungs cannot pump blood fast enough to their heart. And eventually the heart works so hard that it goes into failure. So these children will show symptoms of not being able to run, not being able to do exercise, out of breath, fainting, blue. They get very blue lips, blue fingers, and they faint a lot. So those are the symptoms. And people may misdiagnose it as asthma or think their child is just very tired, but in actual fact, they may be suffering from pulmonary hypertension because they wouldn't have picked it up early enough. So the awareness of that is so important, and getting South African doctors to take it more seriously and start looking for it in children, because we don't know how many are sent home thinking that there's nothing wrong with them, or sent home with asthma, and that is what we are raising the money for.
Without sounding careless at all, my heart goes out to every sick child and person out there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant everybody shifa and accept every parent's dua for their children. But because it is so rare, and either one of you can respond to this question, because it is such a rare condition, do you think that the medical fraternity do not have the resources or the time to do the research? Because it's so rare, it affects possibly only 10 out of 1 million or more children, that they may feel it's not worth the effort. Yasmin?
Yes, I do think so, and that's why we need to come on board and create the awareness so that they can come in and get involved. We're looking for people to come on board, help us create the awareness, make it out there, make it known.
You talk about research, and I have no doubt in my mind that Shakira Budania has been doing ongoing research and homework from day one, and she must have volumes of information on the condition. But what about, contacts with overseas specialists and physicians? I'm sure she's got a lot of knowledge on that as well. Can't you guys partner up with them or hook into their research?
That is the aim. Our aim is to, because internationally they are doing quite much more than South Africa, obviously, but to be able to find these people, and the funds are, that is why it's so important, because at the end of the day, we need the money to do those, to find the people, to actually fund big organizations to help them with their research and actually get somewhere with even looking for a cure. And maybe years and years from now, but inshallah, we have to start somewhere. And the little that we can do, inshallah, must grow into something bigger and better for these children and for the disease.
How is little Humaira doing?
Alhamdulillah, she's doing exceptionally well, so we're all very happy. Alhamdulillah, just remember her in your du'as. Yeah.
By the way, I interviewed her doctor on my show a couple of months ago without realizing, Dr. Pondi.
Yes.
Without realizing he's a doctor. And only after the show was over, he happened to mention that I know 2 other patients in the family that he's attending to as well. And I thought, what a coincidence.
Yeah, brilliant doctor. She's
amazing person, an amazing human being. Talk to us about the event. How much are the tickets? What is the amount you're hoping to raise? And for those people who want to dig deep into their hearts and their pockets, who are unable to attend the event, they may be in other parts of South Africa, Africa and beyond, watching us this morning, but would like to make a difference. What can they do? How can they contribute?
The tickets are 350 Rand per person for the high tea that afternoon. 10% of the profits do go to pulmonary hypertension Kids South Africa, so for our funds. And Covered Magazine is a free magazine, so it does help the magazine grow as well. And we'll be hosting it at the rooftop in Rosebank.
It's a high tea, a ladies only event.
It's a ladies only event because that's where we will be announcing our brand ambassador. It's also, we're appealing to businesses because Covered Magazine has come on board to say that whoever sponsors a table, companies who sponsor a table, we're willing to give free advertising in the magazine for the next edition that comes out. So to sponsor a table, it's I think 10 seats at your table, and it's 3,500 for that.
Great. We've come to the end of the show. Your closing remarks. I mean, you've said a lot already, but what else would you like to leave our viewers with this morning?
Gosh,
read Covered Magazine.
Read our magazine, yes. Go to
Advertise with us.
www.coveredmagazine.co.za. We are launching our new website coming out soon, inshallah. I think we're launching it tomorrow or Friday. That's where we will be launching our new website. We've gone through a little bit of a makeover. So, yeah, read the magazine.
Inshallah.
Support our cause, support PH Kids Awareness.
Yes, please.
May you grow from strength to strength. Your closing remarks.
Please show love and support to PH Kids South Africa, and we will also announce on the day where our funds are going and how we will be using it. So please show your love. Inshallah.
Sumaya and Yasmin, lovely to have you here. Lots and lots of success for your high tea. And like I said, lots of people watching us this morning with very big hearts and very deep pockets. And I have no doubt that they will make the necessary contributions go well and keep that flag flying high for PH Kids. My love and salams to Shakira and Humaira.
Walaikum salam.
That was the lovely Yasmin and Sumaya talking about a cause very close to their hearts and all of our hearts here at ITV. I've said when Shakira and her daughter visited me on set here for an interview that they are part of the ITV family. They certainly are, and you can watch them tomorrow on Zahira's show. Still to come, Ben Tehran talking to us about corruption and state capture, and we'll also be talking to Shafia Ori about preparing our children for that dreaded time, exams. Do stay with us. And now on to the very serious stuff. Not to say that pH and pH awareness is not something that we take seriously. It's very close to our heart. And we do hope and pray that you'll come out in full force supporting that mother and daughter team, Shakira and Humaira Budania. And please do attend the high tea on the 21st at the rooftop. Right now we're going to be talking about the drama, the shenanigans playing out in government. There's not a week that goes by when there isn't some story or the other that breaks in the news about state capture or corruption in some area or the other, mainly state institutions. We have Ben Teron in studio with us this morning, and basically he's here, he has been in here before. Wayne Duvenage has been here as well, and we've put a lot of questions. Every time a news story breaks, we have them come in and explain to us, and very especially to us as lay people, what this means to us and the impact on our lives. Once again, we have Ben Teron in studio to talk about all of the outstanding stories. Where are we now as far as those matters are concerned? But first, let's introduce you to Ben Teron. Morning, welcome to the show.
Good morning, thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure, because we have to give you guys as much exposure as we possibly can, because you are the whistleblowers, the watchdogs, and you are the guys that is looking out for us, the ordinary man in the street. Now, I have made a comment, and you and I spoke about it very briefly off air. All of this, everything that we talk about, state capture, the Lee Gupta emails, the kickbacks, the gravy train, all of that. What is the impact? You know, you might get people watching us this morning thinking, so what? It's not impacting on my life at all. I'm still living happily ever after in the suburbs. I've still got a great job and no problem for me. Why should I care?
Everyone in South Africa should care, because it's our future, it's our children's future that's impacted directly in this. Let me give you an example. Right now with Eskom, we are fighting hand and tooth against a 20% increase in tariffs, which will then come into effect. That immediately impacts directly onto your electricity bill, and everything in South Africa becomes more expensive. It's like petrol price increase. Immediately the bread price increases because the transport cost. So with Eskom being the fundamental energy supply in South Africa, if that goes up by 20%, I can guarantee you it will affect
all the other commodities, obviously.
And the price will go up.
And then the poorest of the poor is who suffers.
Absolutely. And that is what scares us. So right now, we're submitting, we're actually writing up our last things for NERSA, and we're fighting the 20% increase hand and nail. It's unbelievable how hard that fight was going to be. And we need people, your audience, everybody in South Africa will stand up and say, we cannot accept 20%. Now let me get to the 20%.
And how do we make our objections heard?
If you go to outer.co.za, we've actually got a page there where all you have to do is put your name and your contact details in, and that will go automatically to NERSA. So we need people to support us in that, because the more voices, the more people raise their voices, the better for us and the stronger our case is. But let me go back and say, how do we get to 20%? How do they get to 20%? If you look at the Medupi power station, originally it was planned at 69 billion rand. And let me pause at billion. People don't realize R1 billion is 1,000 million. So it's 69,000 millions.
I don't even know how to write how many zeros that you need to write that figure.
9. It started off when they estimated the cost, when they started off, it started off with 69 billion. We currently estimate that the cost will be 300 billion. So it's 300,000 million. That's a lot of zeros.
And that's you and I, the taxpayers, who are going to have to carry that bill.
And remember, the 69 billion calculated increase of cost over the period of the build. But the corruption in there is so huge that it just spiraled out of control. That's one. The 1.6 billion rand currently being discussed in the public domain about McKinsey and Trillion, totally unnecessary. And you can multiply that with the amount of service providers to Eskom.
I want to come back to Eskom and the musical chairs, the CEO's musical chairs, but we'll get back to that in a minute or two. You touched on McKinsey. KPMG is not even cold yet, and now McKinsey hits the headlines. What's the story there?
I just want to say that we've seen the tip of the iceberg, because what we've seen is we've seen the tipping of the scales. Over the last 2 months, it is unbelievable how people have come forward to us, and we're just one organization. There are many organizations like us. So previously we got one call a week of people saying, there's a problem here, please investigate. We nowadays get 3 calls a day because people are now getting the courage and to say enough is enough and we need to take control over the situation. The story with McKinsey is very simple. Number one, it is an illegal contract because the Treasury procurement rules say you cannot allocate a contract on the basis this was. You have to go, South African rules very simply say is, if you want to allocate a contract, you've got to go out and open tender because you don't know who's out in the market that can assist you. Then there's an adjudication process and the board must approve a certain level. What happened here was, McKinsey said to them, you can pay us out of the savings. And the moment they put the plan on the table, immediately they got paid. So that's only one portion. Trillion, which is a Gupta-owned company, got involved and they said to McKinsey, you cannot operate in South Africa without a black economic empowerment company, number one. And number two, you will not get the contract or the contract will suddenly stall for a reason or two unless you partner with us. So guess what? Trillion goes to Eskom and say, we've got a partnership with McKinsey, which they didn't have. So there's no contract with McKinsey or with Trillion at all. 570 million rand gets paid over just like that. No contract, nothing. On a daily basis, more and more information about that is being
uncovered.
What bothers us, and it's a whole value chain. The auditors in South Africa ought to have picked these things up over the last 10, 15 years. It was just overlooked.
They just turned a blind eye.
And that is KPMG currently. But we cannot only look at KPMG as one organization in South Africa. Remember, we've got 5 big firms, and there's PwC, Deloitte, etc. Last week, when the NEL went to Parliament to present their audit report, they couldn't accept it. And the organization involved there is in Saluba, Sizwe and Saluba. So as things go to Parliament now, you'll find that all these auditor firms will be impacted by this, and their names are now currently coming to the fore that says everybody was complicit. It is scary.
Absolutely, and when you think, in the past when you spoke KPMG, or if someone spoke about being employed at a company like a KPMG, you kind of looked at them, in awe and in wonder and respect, because it was such a reputable company. And you begin now to wonder who else is mired in all of this filth. Coming back to Eskom and the CEO's musical chairs, what is that saying for the organization, how it's being run, and the impact on us again as lay people?
You can use any organization, and the example and the trend is throughout the process, it's all the same. What happens is a new minister is appointed. The new minister appoints a new board. The board looks at people that they can manipulate and appoint a CEO. So what then happens is that the rot starts there, because then they manipulate process to get contracts. The contracts get inflated, and the money just flows and flows and flows. What happens in Eskom is that this started with Brian Dames. Then they brought in Brian, and then they brought in a number of them in quick succession. When Brian came over from Transnet, and by the way, Transnet is even worse situation where Eskom is right now. It's just that it's out of the public eye, but there's a lot of billions that has flowed there as well. What happens is that you manipulate. So there's a cabal in Eskom. There used to be a cabal. Brian Molefe, Ben Ngubane, Arno Singh. There's
about 14 people involved.
Absolutely.
On the list.
So that's how they manipulate the process, because you have a junior person drawing up the papers, and then you have authorities, level of authority, and they all sign the thing off. And that's how 1.6 billion rand, even trillion rand now just flows out of my head, and that's scary. And that's how these things happen. And there was a cabal that starts feeding money over there with no deliverables, no contract, no deliverables, no work done. Because within 1 day of them Trillion having a discussion with Eskom, 1 day, they've already billed 20 million rand, signed off and paid within 48 hours. That is unheard of. And that's what's happening in all our state-owned entities.
So shouldn't Minister Lynn Brown be held accountable? How can she not know what's going on at Eskom? She's either not doing her job or she's grossly incompetent.
We acknowledge that the Department of Public Enterprise is one of the biggest organizations, and it has multiple companies that's under her. And I think we think that she's overwhelmed. However, even being overwhelmed, she should have a team of people that assist her in the process.
The right people.
The right people. We are absolutely looking forward to the parliamentary process unfolding over the next few weeks. The NEL has been there already, and they've been kicked out because the results were very poor. Even the Auditor General said, don't trust the annual report of the NEL because it cannot be trusted. So we're looking forward over the next few weeks as those public entities come to Parliament. They've got to bear the chest because the things are going to be there. And what we're hoping that will come out of there is a few things. Number one, the audit reports will tell how weak these state entities are. And number two, it will reflect badly or good on the auditing firms. And the Auditor General has stepped up and said, guys, we need to look at these things more in depth and analyze them more in depth because we cannot afford to do what we did in the past. So we're looking forward to that. And I think a lot of things are going to come out to woodwork.
The situation sounds scarier as you speak. And I'm just wondering, and we come back to the question of what it's going to do to the country. We're talking trillions and trillions and trillions of rands. Can it reach a stage where the country could become crippled, so to speak? It's either that or you're talking civil war, because the poor are going to become so desperate when they see all of this wastage and corruption at the top, and their situations become more dire with every passing day, that you could get a mass uprising. As frightening as that sounds, that could be one of the realities.
Absolutely. The SOEs are meant to be engines of economy. What it has become is not an engine, but actually a bleed of the economy. So what happens is SAA, Transnet, PRASA, all of them are not generators of funds, but actually they're parasites.
They're bleeding us dry.
So now they get propped up by tax money, and we normally call it Treasury is helping them out. That's me and you actually helping them out. If you look at the bailouts of SAA, 3 billion here, 2 billion rand, I think currently we're standing on 35 billion rand total bailout to SAA. Money we won't see. Let me bring it back to people like you and I. It is our pension fund in the PIC, Public Investment Corporation, that's propping these people up. Eskom has gotten loans out of the PIC. So what happens is the coffers, our tax, have been drained. So there's not much money left in Treasury. So therefore, the Minister of Finance has already been told you cannot spend any more money because he's spending money without cabinet approval. The last bailout for SAA was illegal. So now they're looking at the PIC. There is 1.6, 1.7 trillion rand lying there. And those investments that were made to SAA, we will not get back. Those investments that went to Sunrail, we will not get back. Those investments that went to Eskom, we will not get back. So the 1.6 trillion rand is being systematically reduced. So when public servants retire, and the case study right now is Transnet, where people who worked for Transnet for 20 and 30 years cannot get a decent pension.
They
now people
won't
get paid
their
1 rand.
pensions.
People are committing suicide because they cannot afford to live. That is the reality of our future unless this is stopped today.
Okay, more of that right after the ad break. I'm talking to Ben Teron, and it just gets scarier with every passing moment. And I think it should be, because only then will we be mobilized into action, and we collectively can and should and must make a difference. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm talking to Ben Teron from Outer. We're talking state capture. We've just touched on Eskom. We're going to talk a little bit about the Guptas. We're also going to ask the all-important question, where is the public protector? She's very invisible. What does she have to account for? What should she be doing as far as state capture is concerned? But I stress the issue on just how invisible she is. We're also going to be looking at issues around the NPA and the Hawks. Are they an organ without any power? We don't know. Ben is here to answer all of those questions. And of course, the all-important question to be asked is SASSA and the debacle there. Are we going to be reaching, in the next few months, a situation where pensioners are not going to be paid out? Ben, a very worrying situation. What's your take?
The Constitutional Court, let's just quickly start off with SASSA. And I spoke about the railways, the Transnet pensioners. Let's talk about SASSA. There are 17 million grant recipients, of which 11 million is probably old age, and then the rest are dependents, children,
disability, etc.
The Constitutional Court at the beginning of the year said, the Minister of Social Development is not doing her job. SASSA is not doing their job. And they brought in the
But they're still here. They're still in their positions.
We'll talk about them now. Let's talk about the 17 million people that will suffer. In October, there was supposed to be a public tender going out. There was supposed to be allocation. An organization should be preparing for taking over in March next year. As we stand today, there is no contract in place for the next person. And right now, the most obvious organization to take over would be Post Office. As it stands now, there is no contract with Post Office. So what can Post Office do right now to prepare? Because they're not allowed to prepare and expend without a contract in place. So we cringe of 17 million people at the end of March saying, where is our money? So we are worried about that. So once again, corruption is been put in the middle of that, and people are playing games. The minister is playing games at the moment that says she wants to manipulate the process. We need to stop that today, because at the end of March, people will go hungry. Cash, I spoke about treasury, cash flow. We are worried that there won't be enough cash to pay people, even if you have a contractor. We won't have enough cash. The corruption is so bad that it affects your and my income, it affects taxes, and therefore, in terms of SARS, they're under collecting at the moment to the tune of somewhere between 5 and 25 billion rand. They're very quiet about that. But you can imagine...
What's the reason for that?
Income.
The under-collection?
Under-collection because income. People are jobless. Remember, the more jobs are created, the more income is generated, and therefore you pay more tax. We, last year, I think, collected somewhere 1.3 trillion. At the rate we're going now, we're only going to collect 1 trillion. That impacts directly on the spend of the state and your and my ability to live in South Africa. So a revolution is waiting to happen.
To happen, absolutely.
An uprising is waiting to happen because the state is imploding.
All right. Public Protector, there was talk a couple of weeks ago or a month or two ago about a Treasury. She was making noises about a Treasury coming under her control. What was that all about? And she's very, very quiet. She's very invisible in her role as we speak.
What happened was that the request was made that she must investigate the banks, which was done with the previous public protector. The results came out. She changed the findings, and she included one finding that says the Reserve Bank must change the mandate. Now, the Reserve Bank is one of those few organizations that's protected by the Constitution. So her recommendation was change the Constitution so that the Reserve Bank must change their mandate for something else. That caused an uproar, and since then she's been beaten about. She's currently under investigation. The Justice Subcommittee in Parliament is currently looking at how do they approach that investigation, and they want to hold her to account. So that she's only one. Next to her, you get the NPA. Now let's start with the police. We go lay charges at the police station. That docket, because it's got a commercial, it's got a state capture. And let me talk to the word state capture. State capture is a very fancy word for stealing. We have people in South Africa stealing state resources. So we should not use fancy words and forget and gloss over fancy words. People are stealing from the state, and when they steal from the state, they steal from me and you. And we should just acknowledge that. When we go lay a charge at the police station, in Randburg typically, we get complaints because the poor captain of the police, the head of the police station there says, you're increasing my crime rate. They hand it over to the Hawks. The Hawks do the investigation, and once they've got a case and they think everything is in place, they talk to the NPA, and the NPA is supposed to then take it to court, etc. Somewhere between the Hawks and the head of the Hawks 2 nights ago said she has never seen the report, she's never seen the emails. That's an untruth. We have personally delivered to the Hawks, to the MPA, to the Public Protector, our case docket that speaks to the President being corrupt, and the docket name is, the document is called No Place to Hide, a President Caught in the Act. So they've all seen the emails. The emails are true. We are worried about this. Let me put a torch on for you. Watch the space. The next week, 10 days, things are going to unfold at a very dramatic pace. Because I started this conversation by saying the wheel has turned and things are breaking very fast. Over the last 2 months, everything has come together. Civil society is now talking with one voice. The churches, Catholic Church, the South African Council of Churches, the religious organizations are all saying enough is enough. So what worries us, and it got nothing to do with corruption as we know it today, what worries us is that the ANC conference at the end of December is at the risk, there's a risk that that conference won't take place, because the provinces are now saying the elections taking place on a day-to-day basis are not legal, and they should be disbanded. So now there's a risk that in December and which will then mean that the current leadership in South Africa will continue for another year until the elective, and we can't afford that.
Let's look at the issue around the Guptas, and I have no doubt in my mind that they're not the only high-profile family that is involved in corruption at this level. Be that as it may, they are in the spotlight. There were treason charges brought against them by your organisation, OUTA. This was a couple of months ago. Treason is the most serious offence put to any citizen. What has happened to that? Because anywhere else in the world, had a treason charge be brought against a person or an organisation or a family, they would have been in jail and the keys been thrown away. Where are we on that situation?
You see, all we can do as a civil organisation is to lay the charges, give the evidence, and then, as I said before, the Hawks and the NPA ought to be doing their work. We can just keep on begging them to do their work in that process. That process unfolds and unfolds, and once the NPA decide they will not prosecute, we can then apply for a certificate and we can then do a civil prosecution. But I want to talk specifically about the treason. We thought very long and hard before laying treason charges.
It's a serious charge,
It is
the most serious charge.
You cannot get more serious than that. And we decided that if you want to overthrow the state by stealing the money, if you want to change what the government stands for, that's treason, and that's the charges we laid. So the charges were laid against Zwane, Faith Mutambe, and one other person, because those are the people that took confidential cabinet documents and shared it with a private citizen, which the Guptas are. And they influence government. And therefore that, in our mind, is very simple. What we could do, we did. We took the Gupta banks to court, and we went to the Registrar of Banks, and said to the Registrar of Banks, something is wrong with the Bank of Baroda, because there's something happening there. What the Guptas did with the Bank of Baroda is they bought houses for to the tune of 200 million rand. So it's 15 million here, 20 million there. And the total value of those properties were in the vicinity of 220 million. The Bank of Baroda bonded it to 998 million. So it's 2 million rand short of R1 billion. So it was 4 times the value. And we believe that there was money laundering and racketeering taking place there. So the Registrar of Banks said to the Bank of Baroda, you have a problem. Immediately, the Bank of Baroda wrote to the Guptas and said, we do not want your business anymore, we're closing your accounts. And that court case, you can hear on a weekly basis, they're getting interdicts to say, keep our bank accounts open. So that's the one portion of the banking relationship. We went to court. Once we knew that the bank accounts would be closed, we went to court and said, there's a mine rehabilitation fund with the Optima mine and there's another mine, Korenfontein mine, to the tune of 1.7, 1.8 billion rand. And all we asked the court to do is to interdict the Guptas from taking the money once the account is closed. The bank must hold that money until the 6th and 7th of December, where a decision will be taken what to be done with them. The reason why that's important is that when you do mining in South Africa, you need to keep money aside, so when the mine closes and the company closes, there's money to rehabilitate the mines. This is not the Gupta saving. Remember, they bought this mine from somebody else, and that money already laid there. And we are scared that at 1.7 million, as they close the account here, that money will flow out of the country, and then people like you and I will have to pay for that.
Finally, our final question. Is OUTA and other interests working at trying to attach as much of Gupta property and monies from leaving the country?
Let me finish what I just said. What we did is, corruption thrives on money. What we did with the Guptas is, we closed the taps. And they are panicking. So now they're doing all funny stuff. I cannot talk any further other than say, the next 10 days will be extremely exciting for South Africa. The wheel has turned, and I think the house of cards are falling apart. 10 days, you will see me on Tuesday in 2 weeks' time, and then we can talk fantastic
Inshallah.
stuff.
Thank you so much for being with us. And as you can see, he's not allowed to share any further information with us. All he's saying, and has kept saying to me, is watch the space from tomorrow onwards. Mainstream media is going to break a whole host of very, very important stories. So let's hope and pray, inshallah, that it is going to be in the interest of you and I and the rest of South African citizens. That was Ben Teron from OUTA, and hopefully we'll get him back back in again sometime soon to talk some more to us. Thank you for watching this part of the program. Still to come, we're going to be looking at study methods with Shafia Ori. And welcome back to our final interview. We're now going to be talking about children and preparing them for the exams. But I'm already exhausted with my interview with Benteron Outa. I mean, it's frightening what he's just spoken to us about. But I think the bit of positivity that he left us with is that we need to watch the mainstream media over the next few days. And I'm hoping and praying that there is some good news as far as South Africa is concerned and the stopping of corruption is concerned. So let's watch the space. I do hope you've enjoyed that part of the interviews and it hasn't drained you as it has drained me. But I think we have a lovely lady in the studio now, Shafia Ori. She is going to lift our spirits to talk to us about the potential of the little darlings in our lives. She's an educational psychologist, and of course it's that time of year when we prepare the older ones for the exams and their next step in life. So let's hear what she has to say. Shafia, assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Julie. Thank you for having me here.
Lovely to have you here. And of course, we're talking about your passion, and that is children, and just the nurturing and the potential that we see in children. How did this all come about for you?
I think my journey started a very long time ago, like 19, 20 years ago, when my mom established an Islamic education center. My school.
Tell us a little bit about it. Where is it? Where is she situated?
So it's called My School Islamic Education Center and based in Florida, Roodepoort. I mean, 20 years ago at the time, there wasn't any Muslim or Islamic education centers there, and I had a little sister that was 2 years old, so we were looking for a Muslim creche and an Islamic environment for her. And my mom, being a qualified teacher and teaching for many years, decided then that would be the best route for her to establish such a facility. So my exposure has always been around children. From the time the creche opened, I was always playing with them in the playground. I was surrounded by the children when my mom taught. And that ignited something in me, the need for me to be with children. And I felt that that actually energized me. And throughout my school years, I always said, I'm going to be a child psychologist, having absolutely no idea what it entailed or how much of effort I needed to put in order to get there. So when I matriculated, I started my journey studying, only to find out after 3 years of doing a BA that I actually needed a master's qualification. So I started to pursue that, going through the PGCE, the honours year, and then doing my master's and then qualifying.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And it's been a very good and rewarding process and journey.
You are in private practice as an educational or child psychologist?
So the proper term is an educational psychologist, because our focus is on learning and development primarily. So I'm in private practice, but at the same time I'm also a teacher for grade R's. I co-own the My School Islamic Education Center at the moment.
So you work with mommy?
Yes, I do.
Lovely.
I love it. The best support system there is.
Okay, all right. Now it is that time of year, but of course the target audience here, we're not talking those preschoolers or your 5, 6, 7-year-olds. We are talking older children, and we're talking exams and exam stress. It can be a very, very stressful time, not only for mom and dad, teachers, but also for the little ones themselves. At what stage do you start prepping them? Let's not even talk about the matriculants now, but at what stage or age do we start prepping children for exams as we know it? And how do we prepare them in a way that it doesn't cause them distress?
I think the earlier you start, the better it is for them. So it comes down to looking at how you can boost their self-confidence, but helping them to remain grounded from the start. So from the time they start grade 1, you know, to ground them when they're feeling stressed, to make them aware of what they are feeling, so that as they move through the grades up into high school and when they do reach matric, they already have that skills, that ability there to cope, to ground themselves when they are feeling stressed. And then obviously to look at how best they do learn. What is their learning styles, what environment do they function best in, and to be supportive and nurture that environment for them.
And I'm thinking my school years, the moment you spoke about midterm exams or final exams, it sounded like a very punitive period in my life. And I hated it. I dreaded it. And I have no doubt, back in the day, we didn't know about stress and stuff like that. But now when I cast my mind back, I realized just how terribly stressful it was for me and my counterparts. And I would hate for our children to be going through that very dreaded time. I don't even want to think about the matriculants and the uni students because it is a very, very stressful time in their lives. So let's talk about how best we prepare our little ones and older ones as well. The type of language we use, the type of environment we create for them.
So depending on the age, if we're looking specifically within the home environment, what mums and dads need to do, again, to provide them with the support that they need, to give them the space that they need, to encourage them, support them, to motivate them, but at the same time to allow them the space that they do need. I think that's quite important, because when we are in such a stressful environment, we tend to feel ourselves floating and looking down at that stress. And not being able to ground ourselves and to say, look, this is what I need to do. This is what I can do to help me focus. You need to find your calm space. You need to find the study skills or the study methods that work best for you. I mean, if you Google study skills and you start reading what they have to say about study skills, I'm sure that there's at least one of those skills or one of those tools that you will be able to identify with that will say something about what works best for you. So try and draw on resources that are readily available for you. Set your boundaries in terms of studying. You know that you need to study, you need to start studying a few days or weeks in advance, especially the higher up you go because of the amount of work. So draw up a study timetable for yourself. Decide on what time of the day is best for you to study. Set those boundaries. Make sure that you say, if I have to study from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that's what I'm going to do. But make sure that you do take your breaks in between. Hydrate. Drink water. Try and stay away from the sugary things. So there's so many factors. It's all about maintaining a healthy, balanced lifestyle so that you can reach your goal. Look at your diet. Stay away from the sugary things. Stay away from the high carbs. All of that stuff a dietitian can tell you about.
You know what we do is we treat ourselves at the end of the half an hour study time.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a milkshake or an ice cream or a chocolate or whatever have you. Or whilst we're studying, we're eating all of that junk food.
And it can actually make us feel less energetic, yeah. So, I mean, it's not my expertise to speak about food, but I mean, generally speaking, when we want to boost our concentration, when we want to maintain focus, we do know that regular exercise, some activity as well, whether you're going, instead of stopping to watch TV, rather go and take a walk outside in the garden, you know. Do things in a healthy way so that you can reach your goals in a healthy way. Instead of stressing yourself and falling over your feet to reach your goal, do it in a healthy way. Stop, snack on fruit, rather. Have your bottle of water. If you need to take a nap, take a nap. You need to listen to what your body and your mind is telling you. And that is why I say space is so important, especially for mom and dad as well. So if you see that your child is taking a nap, fine, let them take a nap. But I mean, obviously,
within reason.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for an ad break. Shafia Ari is an educational psychologist. She's here to talk about how to prepare and support our children during exam time and to help them set up a timetable, very calm and relaxed working space, and support them, try and create an environment that's going to get the best out of their study time and their study skills. So stay with us. Maybe you have a suggestion or two. You can call in and share that with us. Let's take an ad break. It's that dreaded time of year. It's exam time, and I can't even begin to think what moms and dads are going through, because it's our responsibility to create the right environment for our children. And if we don't do that, then we are setting them up for failure. Would you agree with me, Shafia?
Yes, I do. I think it's very important that as much as we focus on what the child needs to do, we need to focus a lot on the systems that the child is involved in. So for a child to function optimally, we need to consider their home environment, their school environment, their social environment. All of these different systems has a direct influence on their well-being.
I'm thinking about parents who have children with disabilities, whatever they may be. Is it more difficult for them to manage their children during this time? And let's assume the child is at a regular school. It's exams and the stress levels are high, but I'm wondering if the stress would then impact more negatively on a child with a disability?
You know, I think that is dependent on the support systems or the support structure that has been put in place for children with learning difficulties. This is to say that they have been diagnosed and that they have been, there was an assessment that was done and they were provided with the appropriate recommendations and interventions to be put into place in the home environment, in the school environment, for the teachers and so on. So if you follow through with the recommendations, if you are well versed in what the learning difficulty is, then it will be easier for you as a mom and as a dad to provide the proper support so that they will be able to progress through the exam situation without necessarily feeling so much stress.
I'm talking about the exams with you as an education psychologist, but as we speak, I don't even have children who are at school and I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I don't even know, I can't even begin to imagine what parents are going through. But I guess at the same time, if you've done all of your checks and balances from day one, the start of the school year, and you've kind of followed through as a parent with your child alongside you, then things shouldn't be overwhelming.
Well, inshallah, it won't be overwhelming. But if it is, then you need to ground yourself. Just stop, reflect on whatever it is that's happening, why you are feeling stressed, and then hopefully in that moment or in that space, a calmer space, things will become more clearer in terms of the steps that you need to take going forward. Especially when you're feeling as if my child isn't able to study, or I don't know how to provide the support for my child. What can I do? Take a step back, calm yourself down, and then look at things more positively. And if need be, there are tutors, there are a lot of resource centers, there are a lot of resources available online. And sometimes it's something as simple as just reaching out to the teacher, speaking to your child's teacher and asking them, how can I help my child prepare for the exams? What can I do to be the best or the most supportive parent for my child going through with the exams?
Let's talk about the actual, and obviously when you're talking about a very anxious parent, they are going to, because they're so anxious and worried about the exams themselves, and I think all parents do go through this phase as well, they need to be as calm as possible, otherwise they're going to reflect their anxieties and their doubt and discomfort on the child, and it's not going to do the child any favors. So very important that the parents don't stress.
Yes.
But what about those parents, that your helicopter and tiger moms that really expect a lot from their child? What do we say to them and to those children at a time like this? I can't even begin to think what those poor kids are going through.
I think for those parents, children are very much like sponges. They absorb whatever energy and whatever feelings they are surrounded with. So if you are an anxious parent, if you are stressing, if you are worried, if you are anxious, you will be transferring those feelings onto your child, and they will also feel it and obviously impact or influence their ability to focus and to learn and to study for the exams. So the best thing for you would be to ground yourself, to reflect on your feelings, to calm yourself so that your child can be in a calm space as well.
And if you can't do it, then ask for help.
Definitely.
There are plenty of resources available, as you said. Let's talk about the actual day of exams. Now, this is your 10-year-olds upwards, because I think that's typically the time when kids take their formal exams. And your matriculants, and of course by the time you're at university, I should imagine you've aced it and you know how to approach the exams. But let's talk about the do's and don'ts in the exam room.
Okay. I think it's very important that when you walk into an exam, I'm trying to think back to when I was when I wrote my exams. It's very important for you to remain focused on what you are there for. Try not to, if you are an anxious person, you would know yourself better when it comes to exam situations. So if you are an anxious person, try not to mingle or to socialize with your peers, especially if they are stressed themselves, because it might influence you as well. Remain focused on what you are there. Trust and have confidence in what you have prepared yourself for. And then from an Islamic perspective, tawakkallah, have trust in Allah. A lot of clients that I see when it comes for subject choice, career guidance, schoolwork, they often find that when they ground themselves in dua, when they start things off with dua, then things seem to go more smoothly. So whether you're Muslim or not, if you can find that connection with a higher being and ground yourself in that connection, remain focused on your goals, be confident in what you have studied, and pen whatever it is that you have down on the paper as fast as you can, then you should be fine, inshallah.
I guess it's, as far as the question paper is concerned, try and read through it once or twice at least, just to truly understand what is being posed to you, so that you don't misunderstand and write down the wrong answers. So the first golden rule would be try and go through your exam paper at least twice. Answer the questions that you do have answers to. Those that you're battling with, leave it for last, but get everything else that you are knowledgeable about out of the way. So answer those questions first.
Look at the marks of the questions as well, because the marks is indicating how much of the facts that you actually need to pen down.
Right.
So look at the marks. Like you said, you read through the question paper once. The second time, usually if you read through it, then you have a little pencil and you start, if there's any keywords or ideas that come to mind, then you just pen it down next to the question as well. Keep your mind focused on the time. Try to allocate the time that you have per question. So if you know you have a long essay type of question, you know that you're going to need about 10-15 minutes for that question. So try and stick to time as well, but make sure that you also have sufficient time to read through your paper towards the end. If you need to edit, if you need to add on, if you need to scratch out, or if you see that you've actually made a mistake and that you provided the wrong answer. So it's time management,
comprehension, understanding the work, the questions.
Just working quickly, I can't even get to the word. Working quickly, working efficiently, penning down the what is equivalent to the marks that they give you.
And it's not about showing off and being the first one to finish the paper.
Definitely
Sometimes the kids, they show off. They want to be seen to be the first one to have completed the paper, even though they haven't prepared probably well enough or haven't answered all of the questions. But they're wanting to really project this image of a winner, and they're only doing themselves an injustice, are they not?
Yes. It's you have to remain focused on what you are there for, and that comes part of being confident with who you are. If you know who you are and what you want and what your goals are, then all of those external distractors won't negatively impact your end result. So focus on what you are there for. Try to keep your social life kind of separate from where you are for the exams. Your exams it's you alone in there. It shouldn't be influenced by your friends. yeah, so it's just,
And I guess in closing, preparation shouldn't be starting now or a week ago or a month ago. The preparation was from day one when you started at school, the beginning of the new school year. That is when preparation should have started, and for you to have studied and worked and prepared smartly. So had you done that from day one, there'd be nothing about cramming now or nervousness or any such thing. Because if you had started on the right footing then, everything would be a breeze.
Look, nervousness can be a good thing. You know, it can propel us to applying ourselves better, to do good. But exactly what you said, when it comes to your studying, do it well in advance. Set the timetable up. But be persistent, be consistent with what you set out to do and with when you need to study, how much you need to study, so that you don't end up cramming, stressing, and having
and if you were always paying attention in class and did your homework and projects on time and paid attention to what you were doing, this time of year will be a breeze for you.
And if it's not the end of the world. You can still apply yourself now so that you can achieve optimally with your exams. So even if you messed up in the year, it's fine. Just apply yourself now. Focus on what is important now. It's not what you did. It's where you are now, what you need to do in order to reach your goal.
I love that. I love the fact that you are allowing room for improvement, because we're human and we can't always ace everything in life. So if you have messed up during the year, there's always a second chance. It's the way you pick yourself up, alhamdulillah, and move on. There are second and subsequent chances. And in closing, what else would you like to say?
Just remain grounded, be calm, focus. You can do it. And if you can't, there are resources available. Reach out for it.
Thank you for being with us, sharing your expertise, the lovely Shafia Ori, and continue touching lives in a positive way.
Inshallah, amen.
That then brings us to the end of the show. We sincerely hope you've enjoyed being with us as much as we have enjoyed your company this morning. Till Saturday morning, a very big thank you to the Let's Talk production team. And as always, from me, Julie Alli, Khuda Hafiz.
Ya hala, ya hala, ya hala. حني قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حني قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا